When people think of Titanic, they usually picture the same few things. The one scene from the movie, the grand staircase, and the several conspiracy theories that refuse to go away no matter how much evidence disproves them. But while rebuilding the Titanic in Minecraft, I found myself becoming way more interested in the more obscure parts of the ship. The hidden systems, the machinery spaces, the crew areas, and the strange little details no one ever really talks about. So today, I'm going to take you on a brief tour to show you some of the hidden details I found while recreating the Titanic in Minecraft. This is our 4:1 scale Titanic. That means the ship is 4 times larger than the standard Minecraft scale, which gives us enough room to recreate much smaller details. Things like machinery, piping, structural elements, and interior decoration that would normally have to be heavily simplified or left out can be represented accurately. So far, I've spent about 4 years working on this project instead of going to college, and over that time, I realized Titanic was far more complicated than I originally thought. But first, I need to show off some of the more famous spaces to keep people interested. This is the grand staircase. There really isn't much I can say about this room that hasn't already been said before. It was designed to impress first-class passengers with wood paneling, ornate ironwork, and the huge glass dome overhead. Connected to the staircase were several first-class public rooms, like the reading and writing room and the lounge, along with a ton of extremely interesting, definitely not boring to build cabins. Speaking of cabins, here we have B-52, B-54, and B-56. Together, they formed one of the more luxurious first-class suites on board, and later inspired Rose's suite in the 1997 film Titanic. Yes, it was the room used for that one scene. But in reality, the movie suite looked completely different from the actual suite. For example, the sitting room, B-52, was based more on another cabin, C-55, than on how B-52 actually looked. Things like that tend to give people the wrong impression of what Titanic actually looked like. I bet if you asked most people how they envisioned Titanic, they would probably tell you that it was the most luxurious ship in the world, every room having intricate wood paneling, expensive furniture, and an overall luxurious appearance. Some rooms did, but in reality, most of the standard first-class cabins actually looked like this. Exposed framework, visible piping, and ventilation running right through the rooms. When building a project this large, you end up paying attention to a lot of smaller details. One of the more interesting examples was this overlooked safety feature. In the bow, there was an open space for third-class passengers, and in this space was a steam fire extinguishing system. This is a set of pipes that ran down into the cargo holds below, and steam could be directed through a set of valves into the holds to suppress a fire if one broke out. Yes, somehow I've reached the point to where I'm genuinely excited about steam pipes. And unfortunately, preventing fires turned out to be the least of Titanic's worries. If we go up the stairs from the third-class open space, we reach the crew areas under the forecastle. This area contained machinery spaces for the engines that controlled the anchor windlasses and capstans. After that, we find several crew dining rooms along with a few lockers, including one that might sound strange at first, the sand locker. Yes, they really had a locker for storing sand. But believe it or not, it actually served an important purpose. It was used for maintaining the wooden decks. The crew would spread sand and water across the deck and then scrub it with a stone to clean and wear down the surface. This process was called Holystoning. This means that at times on board Titanic, there were people professionally scrubbing wood with rocks for hours at a time. Now we'll dive into some machinery and crew spaces that came dangerously close to breaking me mentally. This is the steering gear room. This room housed the machinery that controlled Titanic's rudder, along with the equipment used to operate the capstans on the poop deck above, a name that has apparently survived centuries without anyone changing it. The only reference I had for this room was a top-down view from the deck plans and a drawing of the engines and the gear. Everything else, like the arrangement of the pipes, the color of the walls, and whether the room had a wood or steel deck, had to be pieced together from several different sources. Most of what I just listed probably sounds very minor and unimportant, but it was a huge headache for a perfectionist like me. I spent countless hours researching this space, and because of that, I'm fairly confident this is one of the most accurate recreations of this room ever made. Another space that almost destroyed my mental state was Scotland Road. This was a long corridor running along E-deck used by crew members and third-class passengers. The space had a huge amount of exposed piping and ventilation, all of which is garbled together on the plans I have, making it extremely difficult to determine what I'm looking at. Unfortunately, this space is still incomplete, and I've been procrastinating on working on it again. Continuing down Scotland Road, we come across one of the ship's ash places. When coal was burned in the boiler rooms below, it created a lot of ash that had to be disposed of. These rooms contain hoists that could lift that ash out of the boiler rooms and dump it over the side of the ship while in port, which is probably not a disposal method that would pass environmental regulations today. At sea, they instead use the ash ejectors, which use jets of water to launch the ash through openings in the hull. Now to get a little serious for a moment, nearby also on Scotland Road was the engineer's mess, a simple little dining space connected to some of the bravest people on board. During the sinking, Titanic's engineers stayed below deck, keeping the lights, pumps, and electrical systems running for as long as possible. Their work helped buy valuable time during the evacuation above, and they are considered some of the greatest heroes of the disaster. To end this on a lighter note, let's go up to the boat deck and look at even more crew areas. At the front of the boat deck was the bridge in the Wheelhouse. This is where Titanic was navigated and controlled during the voyage. Shocking, I know. You may notice that the ship has two wheels. While that might seem confusing at first, there was actually a reason for it. The wheel inside the wheelhouse was typically used while the ship was at sea, while the wheel on the open bridge was used by the harbor pilot, which is a specialist navigator who would temporarily come on board to guide the ship in and out of port. Interestingly, there was also a third wheel located on the docking bridge at the stern. This wheel could be used during docking operations, allowing the ship to be maneuvered from a position where they had a much better view of the aft part of the ship. Going back down deep into the ship, we find the spaces that offer a unique kind of pain and suffering when it comes to research. The Powertrain, the boiler rooms, engines, and turbine, and all the systems that truly brought Titanic to life. But that's going to be a story for another day. Rebuilding Titanic gives us a unique view into hidden spaces that are rarely talked about. The machinery, the shipboard systems, and the working spaces that kept the ship alive. There's still a long way to go, but with every room we finish, Titanic feels a little more complete. And slowly, piece by piece, the ship is coming back together.